Thank you. I love when that happens. And thank you for taking the time to join us today to hear more about Step into Social Care, an initiative conceived and produced by Cohesion and Dawson Walker, along with an advisory group of providers and students. So as we said, I'm Amanda, I'm one of the owners of Cohesion. With me today is Dave Beasley, our Social Care Talent Director, Adam Winterton, Director at Dawson Walker, Philippa Bennett, Assistant Academy Manager at Harlow College for Health and Science, along with a group of learners, Jessie, Piper, Keris, Melissa, and Charlotte. Now we will be recording the session, which we will make available after we've finished, and we'll also be taking questions at the end. So please post them in the chat as we go through. So ahead of getting started, and by way of an introduction, Cohesion deliver recruitment and workforce solutions for social care providers. Our clients span not-for-profit and for-profit, all sizes and all care settings. And we also run early talent programs, so summer programs, industrial placements, apprenticeships, graduate programs in other sectors. And all of this puts us in a really strong position to share what we see as best practice. Dawson Walker are an award-winning independent creative agency with over 25 years experience in marketing and communications. But before I move on to our main presentation, we thought we would share a video for you to hear from some industry leaders and why they think this program is so important. This is where they take a breath across my fingers.
So I think it's really important for any sector to be involved in the education space in terms of building awareness of their sector and their careers, but particularly when we come to the care sector, because we all know about staffing shortages. Lots of other sectors really have got the message that actually you've got to start building things like employer brands and interest in the sector at a much earlier age. Yeah, if you go to actually a university or a college or a sixth form and talk to them about what they do, they'll be able to work with you to understand how actually you might be able to work together. Because it's about dispelling myths, it's about building a long-term brand that people can relate to as they move through education and into work. And actually, a lot of the studies on young people, actually, they are socially minded. They do care about doing things with purpose. I think there's lots of misunderstandings amongst young people about the care sector because they haven't experienced it. They don't see it on TV. Young people think it's very difficult work. They'll think it's all about wiping dirty bottoms and all those kind of images. So I think it's really important that the care sector emphasises the care side of the work they do, the really important work they do. And I think the care sector's got a really good proposition here, which is that value and that sense of purpose that young people are looking for in the work they do. You've got to be proactive about it and invest properly. And by that I mean time and effort. Get your messaging across, understand your audiences, and get a message out there. The other thing is to engage on the ground. So that's work with colleges, work with universities, understand the programs that they run and how you interact with those institutions. So you get to the students. And the third thing is give the students a good experience actually when they come to you. So the sectors that have done this very well are the professions, the finance sector, accountancy firms, law firms, because they've been doing it for a long time. Public sector programs like Teach First, Police Now that have come onto the scene, actually they do a very good job of getting the message out to young people.
I think providers need to really think about attracting more young people into social care, because social care, presents huge amounts of opportunities for young people in terms of the range of careers that are on option for them and in terms of the level of skills and expertise that they can develop within those roles and indeed, of course, bring to them. And actually, we need to make sure that we have a workforce that properly represents the people we're providing care and support for as well. And many of those who require care and support are young themselves and would really value the opportunity to work with colleagues and be supported by colleagues who share similar interests, similar ambitions and similar passions to them. So absolutely having young people as a core element of the care workforce is something we should all be striving for.
This new campaign hopes to reach out to a new group of people who could make a big contribution to social care. There is a fantastic advisory board packed with social care providers who will ensure that this campaign not only seeks to deliver the messages that social care wants, but also is realistic about the roles and opportunities there are for people in our sector. I am supporting Step into Social Care, and I hope that as many social care providers as possible will jump onto this campaign and make it a tremendous success.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, Dave. So what is Step into Social Care? It's an initiative designed by the sector for the sector, but also designed to open up jobs in social care to a wider audience. And we're aiming to bring together students and care and support providers in order to provide meaningful part-time work. We're targeting younger workers, typically who are studying health and social care, although anyone looking for flexibility in learning can apply. Next slide, please, Dave. Why are we doing it? So why are we doing it? There's lots of reasons why, and some of the main reasons are on the screen. Our view at Cohesion is that in order to deliver the best recruitment results, it's necessary to constantly reflect and react to the market, candidate behaviour, demographics, and data. No one action and no one campaign will fix everything for us. I mean, we all know the challenges we have at the moment, but incremental improvements can and will have a positive impact. And we certainly believe that by developing early talent strategies, that's perhaps one of the most important things you could do now to reap rewards and benefit in the future. Next slide, please. So let me share a little bit of our journey so far. Recruitment got more challenging post-COVID. I mean, who would have thought it, having come through a global pandemic and all of the challenges and issues that we had, but things did get tougher. The workforce was fed up, they wanted more flexibility, they weren't necessarily getting it, temp numbers were rising, people were leaving the sector. Disappointingly, the pandemic had no impact on changing workforce constitution, either in terms of age or sex. And we thought it might. You know, we saw and heard a lot of anecdotal evidence whilst working through those years, but actually most of the workers that came to the sector from other areas, they were borrowed and they went back to where they came from. And so we talked to social care providers about Saturday jobs. We thought this would be a good way to showcase care and help organisations to grow their own, because having surveyed and talked to lots of young people studying, most young people have part-time jobs in retail and hospitality, even those studying social care. And actually, none of our learners today who have joined us have a part-time job in social care because they found it too difficult to find one, which is something we can explore a little bit later. So we also spoke to colleges and students, and types of things they told us was that they didn't hear back after they applied for jobs. They were being told they needed a year's experience. And actually, the preference of most students is to work full-time in the summer holidays and then part-time during term time. So while lots said yes to part-time work, Saturday isn't necessarily what they're after. And many students told us they didn't know why working in care was rewarding, even though they were studying it. And that was really led by not having real experience. Colleges struggled, particularly during COVID, in order to find placements. So while other industries, as we heard from Stephen, work really hard to engage people younger and younger, social care as a sector often turns away young talent. So we learned a lot, and we learned a lot through the survey, through a series of meetings with students, meetings with our advisory group companies, and with the advisory group organisations' operational teams. And we co-produced Step into Social Care. So if you're loving the Club Tropicana 1980s vibe going on, and we've got the students and the learners to thank for that. They chose the colours, they chose the branding, they chose the hashtag no experience necessary. And the providers that were involved helped to identify what would be helpful along with us to make sure students have the best possible experience after start. So combined with the experience of Cohesion, Dawson Walker and the advisory group, we put together a toolkit. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits? There are lots of benefits for all stakeholders, for your teams, for the people that you support, and for young people themselves. In addition to these taking part, we're very mindful that during inspections, the CQC are always looking for what providers are doing to tackle the fundamental challenges that we have as a sector. And there is no bigger challenge at the moment than recruitment and workforce issues. So we see this as a way of showing the people that you support, their families, and the inspectorates that you're working hard to create better results as much as possible. We do appreciate that not all homes and services can accommodate part-time workers, and actually we completely agree with that. If you have a particular service or home with a really high level of temporary workers, for example, and maybe there isn't a manager in place, then that's probably not the best location for proof of concept. But by taking part in the locations that you can, you will be helping to future-proof the social care workforce. So I'm going to hand over now to Adam, who's going to share who's supporting the campaign and what you can do to get involved.
Thanks, Amanda, and lovely to meet you all. I'm Adam Winterton from Dawson Walker Communications. You see on the slide the organisations who we are partnering with, who've been giving us lots of support, and it's brilliant, the support that the National Care Forum have been lending us, and the support for the campaign by obviously giving us this platform today, but also we were in front of the CEOs and the directors at the conference last week. And I guess testament to the strength of this idea is the fact that these organizations have become quickly interested and excited about the initiative. And we think that they've got great vision and that there is lots of potential for this idea. So a big thank you to those organizations for your energy, for your advice, and for your support. The backing of those organizations, of course, gives lots of weight and depth to our ideas. And we're always looking for new partners. So if you have any ideas there, please do get in touch with Amanda or myself. Next slide, please, Dave. Thank you very much. Amanda mentioned that we've been working with a steering group, and I guess these organizations are the pioneers, the organizations who have quickly adopted the idea, helping to shape the initiative, starting to promote it. So a big thank you to those providers. But there's no limit to this. Our ambitions are huge. I was just scrolling through the list of everyone who's added to the chat, and it's an amazing diversity of organizations that you're representing. Thank you so much for your interest. We welcome you all. We're at the stage where we've launched the idea, people are talking about it. We now need you to start taking action by adding your jobs to the job site, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. Big thing, and that is that you need to be, I think, comfortable with our commitments. These are the commitments that you as employers need to be able to make to the students, but you can post a job today. Next slide, please, Dave. Thank you. So what are we doing for our launch? Well, here you can see quite a number of things happening. Top left, today is the latest in a string of events and webinars where we are promoting and talking about Step into Social Care. there are then all sorts of ways that we think we need to then extend the message, and we hope you can support us in amplifying that message. So we've got our students from Harlow College with us today. They've been really important in helping us co-create the branding, the work that you see in our slides today, but also in actually shaping the initiative. So our hashtag No Experience Necessary came about because when we spoke to the students at Harlow, they said it's really difficult for us to get into some kind of job because everyone's asking us to bring experience, and we can't get that without starting a job. So they're stuck in this terrible catch-22. We're going to start promoting jobs to schools, FE colleges and universities. We want to make sure there are enough jobs on the jobs board first before we promote that in a big way, so that there's lots of lovely choice on there. So we're really hoping that after today we can start seeing that volume of jobs increase as you start adding your own jobs to it. We've created a web page that you can visit, which will give you a little synopsis of all the information, and there's some videos on there. That's also going to be the place where you will be able to download our toolkit from once available. Next slide, please, Dave. So these are the commitments that we are asking employers to think about. So offering flexible jobs to fit around the students' commitments and life commitments. No experience necessary, roles that are open to people without experience, without having worked in social care before. They might bring life experiences and qualities, but what we're saying here is that they don't need to have worked in a care setting before. That you'll offer developmental and experiential training during their time with you. And alongside that, a buddy who will be with them for the first 3 months of their employment to help them find their way around, and much more, of course. And that you provide feedback throughout the recruitment process, so that actually the recruitment process becomes a really good experience for those students as well. And it goes without saying, which is why we haven't included it as a bullet point, but I'm going to say it anyway, that of course the minimum wage salary should also be one of those commitments. Thanks, Dave. And in return, these are our commitments to you. So we're making a toolkit that is made up of a whole pack of things, actually. So talked about job postings, so you can post your roles that would fit into Step into Social Care on care and support jobs. But also we're preparing templates for an induction checklist, a buddy playbook, stay interview questions, and a one-page profile template. So we hope those tools are really useful for you. In addition to that, we're reaching out to schools, colleges and universities and promoting Step into Social Care wherever we can at events and conferences. So what's next? There's the website address. Please take a look. Hope you find it informative. We will be making updates to the website, but you can add your jobs to care and support jobs today. You can help us with content because actually your people sharing their experiences will really add to the promotion. Use our logo on your website and help us spread the word. Talk about Step into Social Care with your connections, with other influencers, and please do keep us informed of how well things go. So if you post a job, you attract people into it, what happens? What's the experience like for you? What do your service users experience from that? Because we think there's a fantastic enhancement to their lives as well. We want to gather those case studies. We'll publish them on the webpage, and we'll start also using social media to publish those stories. So let's move on, and I wanted to hand over, if that's okay, to Philippa, who wants to share a little bit about some detail about the curriculum. Philippa.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everyone. So I'm the Assistant Academy Manager at Harlow College for Health and Science. And essentially that means I'm the curriculum lead. We have 170 learners who are 16, 17 and 18. And it's a sixth form vocational college in Essex. Some of you may know Harlow. You may be surprised to know that health and social care is one of the most popular courses, and that goes all across the country. We're linked with lots of colleges, further education colleges across the country, and health and social care is always a very popular course. We have at the moment, we're running a Cambridge Technicals, which is an OCR. It's similar to what you might know as a BTEC. It's a 2-year program, level 3 program, but we also have a level 2 program, which is 1 year. It's almost like a foundation year for the learners who perhaps didn't do as well as in their GCSEs as expected. So some learners are with us for 3 years. They do the level 2 first, and then they do 2 years of level 3. At the end of that, they have a qualification called an extended diploma, which is equivalent to 3 A levels. And some of those learners will go off to university. In fact, the majority of our learners will apply through UCAS and will end up in things like social work degrees or nursing, midwifery, paramedics, a whole range of health and social care professions. So the course really, I think what's really fascinating about health and social care is that these learners come to us at 16 straight from school, usually from GCSEs, and they've already decided they want to work in health or social care. So these are not 16-year-olds who are going into sixth form with, choosing 3 A levels and not quite sure on a career. They've already opted in at that point, which means that they already know they want to be in the caring professions. So these learners are interested in the caring professions. They probably read quite a lot about it. And then they come to us and they learn some fantastic units on the course. Some are related to health, some are related to social care, some are exam-based units, some are coursework units. And I've just given you a few examples there in the pink box there of some of the units they do. They do 9 in the first year generally and 9 in the second year, and really an enormous range. We have a lot of guest speakers come in, but we would like some more. That would be lovely. We do have guest speakers also on Teams to try and add to the curriculum. We have a supported studies department within Harlow College, and they often come and work with our learners. But really the curriculum is very strong, I feel, and we also include other things like the care certificate, etc. So we have a really good solid curriculum for students who are interested already at age 16 in health and social care and continue to study it. All our learners do a 2-week placement, you can see in the grey box, and the 2-week placement, they usually produce for us a wish list of the sort of industry they think they'd like to work in. So lots do choose care homes. Some say they'd like to work in centres with people with disabilities. Some might say they'd like to work in the hospital or in their local GP practice. And then we aim to find those placements locally, because a lot of our learners do not drive yet. So it's really helpful for us if we can get as many of those settings in the local area where the students can take public transport or walk. And this is something, as Amanda mentioned earlier, which has been particularly difficult through COVID, is getting enough placements, and we are slowly getting back to levels we had previously, but it is really tricky to find enough settings that are willing to take 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And what I'd like to say to you all now is that, remember, these are learners who want to work in this sector, so they are really keen, and they want this experience, particularly our second years who are on this call, because they are filling in their UCAS applications now. It is mutually beneficial. It benefits them. It helps them to achieve their university place and ultimately their career, but it would also benefit you because these are keen young people. I just wanted to mention very quickly about the T-level in health. So a qualification that we were due to run this year, but we will definitely be running next year, and it is running nationally, is the new T-level health qualification, which is a level 3 qualification. You may have heard of T-levels, which were brought in by the government 2 years ago, and there are T-levels in other areas like construction, digital. The T-level in health unfortunately has not been as successful as expected nationally. There was quite a lot of discourse about the specification because obviously, as you can tell by the title, it is just health. There is no social care in it whatsoever, and the idea of the government was that the T-level in health would ultimately replace all the BTECs and CTEC, the one we run, and this seems to be completely opposing to the situation we have in the UK with social care being so short of young people working in it. So we hope that this will change, and in the future there will be a T-level in social care, or at least a joint T-level. But at the moment, our course that we run, the Cambridge Technical, has got no plans to stop. So we're really pleased with the curriculum we have. So my message to you really is, please do encourage your settings to take some young people on placement. Please do come and speak to our learners or arrange with us to do a Teams call to talk about opportunities in the care sector. And please, if any of you are interested in looking at our spec, we'd really like to send our specification to some of you to look at it with us. We have some mandatory units which we can't change. You probably expect to see safeguarding, health and safety, equality, diversity, but we also have optional units, and we do review these with Princess Alexandra Hospital in Harlow, with Anglia Ruskin University in Chelmsford, and also with some care providers. It would be really helpful for us going forward to see that what we are teaching our young people is relevant to the industry they're going into. I'm not sure if the learners can hear what I'm saying. Yes, they can. Yes. Yeah. So the young learners who we have on this call, and as Amanda said, they are not working in social care at the moment, but I can tell you, out of the 170 young learners in my department, I would say 99% of them do have part-time jobs. You will imagine with the financial situation at the moment, some of them need to work. Some of them do it for their own self development, but actually, you know, all of our young learners are actively looking for work all the time, and it would be much more useful for them and for you, obviously, if they could work in the care sector. So please consider young people. And as Amanda said, the campaign started with health and social care learners because they are the ones who are most interested. So that would be brilliant if you could give them a chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa. I mean, it does make you think, doesn't it? And the fact that we've got young people on this call who Philippa said have opted in, who really want to study, who want to work in the wider world of social care, healthcare, social work, and yet we're turning them away. And there's something in that. While all of our temp numbers go up, and I'm talking on behalf of many of my clients, I can't help but think, you know, we're really missing a trick around a positive pass-through. So 3 of the learners who are with us today are in their second year. They could have been working full-time the last 2 summer holidays and a couple of shifts a week in the 2 days that they're not at college. And yet, you know, I know from speaking to hiring managers all around the country that that is seen as a real challenge. And I'm not saying it isn't, but if only we could make it work, if only we could make it more flexible. Those same learners are now applying to university, and society as it is now most people going to university, particularly if they're the first in their family, tend to live at home. So that's 5 years of meaningful part-time work. That's continuity of care. That's certainly a positive pass through social care on your way to being a midwife, a nurse, or a social worker. And often, and Philippa and I were talking about this last week at the conference, often to become a social worker, to become a nurse, to become a midwife, to become an occupational therapist, you actually need some experience working with some of the different audiences. So it's a win-win. I think I had 6 wins the other day, where the people that you support, their families, the college, the young people, your recruitment teams, the organisation, and on it goes. Jarlath, I'm going to answer this question now because I think it's kind of relevant. So you raised a really good question. Is there anything out there that talks about the business case, particularly for 16-year-olds? And again, we hear that a lot. 16-year-olds can't work on the front line of care. They can if they're suitably supported and supervised. And there are a number of fact sheets with skills for care about how to engage with and support those that are under 18. But what you also need to explore and understand in your different contracts and settings is, what does your insurance say? And it might be that your insurance says you cannot employ people under the age of 18. And if that's the case, then I'd encourage you to speak to whoever owns that contract and the lawyers. I have known of a couple of providers who've challenged it, but even so, there will still be a way to bring those young people into the business under the age of 18 so that you are shoring up your pipeline of talent for the future. We have a 2-part case study, which we did over a number of years with Care Through the Millennium. So CTTM, or Care Through the Millennium, regularly takes 16-year-olds onto an apprenticeship program, and they are delivering frontline care. Now, what they can't do is work a weekend shift. They can't work overnight. So there are some restrictions there, but they have had phenomenal success over the years. Another one I would mention would be Hertfordshire County Council. They take 20 apprentices, 16 upwards, every year. And that's been going on for 20 years. And many of those young people are now nurses and allied health professionals in the county. Some of them are still working in a care home setting. So it is possible. It's just, it might require a little bit of investigation, delivering hands-on care under the age of 18. Next slide, please. I've digressed slightly, Philippa, but as you're kind of notionally in the chair at the moment, I want, and you have mentioned some of this in the previous slide, but what would you say your top tips are for any organisation wanting to engage with early talent? Anything we haven't covered already?
Yeah, I think just adding to what you were saying just there, Amanda, and I think you mentioned earlier in the presentation, one of the things the young people say is that they would like really to work in weekdays rather than weekends, because some of them do sporting things and other things at weekends, or they'd like to spend time with their families. And most vocational colleges, they're not in 5 days a week as you might expect at school. They're generally in 2 or 3 days a week. So they do have some spare capacity during the week. The other thing is, and I think you did say this earlier, is really they have very long summer holidays and Christmas breaks and Easter breaks like school. And generally they'll be finishing this year. Our first and second year level 3s will finish at the end of June, and they won't be due back till the middle of September. So there's a huge opportunity there to increase shifts during the holiday period, and I'm sure they'd be very grateful for the extra earnings. And I think that flexibility, I can appreciate for employers that's quite hard to manage with schedules and such like, but actually that flexibility would be incredibly encouraging for young people. A lot of our young people do work in hospitality, as you said, or in shops, and they do have 0-hour contracts. And even though 0-hour contracts get quite a lot of negative press, for them, that flexibility is really important. Also, for example, if they come up with a big assignment or they're doing a dissertation dissertation or something like that, they can maybe put their work on hold for a few days to get that done. So I think flexibility really is key. And I think you need to think about who you're competing with. As I said, most of our young people work in shops or in hospitality. They really need those placements and work experiences on their doorstep so that they can get there. Public transport. I'm sure if we have time, one of the young people will tell you about some things they've been offered in terms of attracting them into the workplace. But really, it's about meeting them when they're young. And honestly, the learners we've had who've gone on placement into care homes in the last year, virtually all of them have been offered a job. I'm sure you can appreciate if you see somebody working well, you want to try and get them to come back. So I think for you, if you can have learners on placements, it would make a massive difference. You'd get to see their skills, their knowledge and their behaviours, and hopefully it would encourage you to employ them. So really think about, I think, just being flexible, what you can offer them in return, what they can offer you. And one of the other great ideas we had, didn't we, Amanda, we were discussing at the conference, was, you know, young people were talking to us a lot in this co-production with Adam about where to publicize, where to advertise these sort of jobs. And we were talking about social media, and, you know, if you have a young person working with you, get them to do you a TikTok, get them to do you a YouTube video, get them to tell you where their friends look online for jobs, because, you know, they are different generations socially, and they do most of their socializing online. So we need to really tap into that. And if you don't feel confident making a TikTok about your care home or your setting, then they will. So get them to do it for you.
Thank you, Philippa. That's brilliant. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's many studies out there that say young people want to hear from people like them. And if you have young people in your team, it's best to ask them where they hang out. And it will help to shift the dial. You know, I hope what's really coming across is that there's an opportunity here, and it's an opportunity that isn't going to fix everything overnight, but over time it will. You know, if the more that we can shift the dial, the better. The average age of a frontline worker in the UK, I think we're sitting at 47 female in white. That's the demographic. And there's a lot that we can do to shift things in a different direction. But I am going to open up to questions now, and I'm just going to give my part 2 of the answer to Liz's last question. Because I keep being a bit too keen on the old hitting return on my keypad. So Liz, you asked, is there any data or evidence about better retention with a younger demographic? I can't point to a study. I can share lots of anecdotal. So certainly CTTM, our thinking and our intent is that this is a good way to build retention into the workforce. If we think just about the learners that are with us today, had somebody offered them a role a couple of years ago, well, then they could have had potentially a 5-year run at having a part-time worker in that service somewhere near Harlow. So I think the pressures of why somebody that isn't a student might leave a job are very different to that being a student. So yes, I'm making assumptions, but my thinking is this is a good way to shore up retention. And in terms of top tips and flexibility reshifts, gosh, my view is, if I was running a care business at any scale, I would look at the services that could potentially take some students and start with a work program in the summer where you offered a full-time job over 6 weeks, let's say, and then gave them the opportunity to work while she slowly, potentially, towards the end of the summer, reduced some agency hours, and then fit those young people in to a shift pattern and look at where you're using temporary staff on a regular basis, where the temporary workers are saying, we don't want a perm job because it's to their benefit not to. So that's how I would do it. You know, you might have somebody working 30 or 40 hours a week as a temp. I'd split that up again amongst learners once they were at a position where they were trained. I'm sure there's lots of other ways too, and I'm by no means an expert, but that is a solution that I am trying to talk to as many of our clients about as a, as a really viable option to get more people into the workforce and bring down temp spend. Okay, so there's been a couple more questions here. I'm just going to shimmy up. Is this a national project, Sheila? Yes, it is. So care and support jobs at the moment, everyone in this virtual room can raise a profile on care and support jobs and raise all of your vacancies on there. There is no cost associated with that. There is a drop down menu when you raise the jobs for jobs that are specific to step into social care. And yes, it's national. So once we have a decent amount of vacancies, we will reach out to curriculum leads like Philippa all across the country in the Association of Colleges, which Harlow College is a member of. There are 240 of them. We've worked in partnership with the AOC for many years, and they've always supported our campaigns. We'll also reach out to the ISE. So you heard Stephen Isherwood, their CEO, earlier. They have a network of schools, colleges and universities. We'll also reach out to them, as well as thousands of secondary schools where Cohesion have all of this data, because we regularly run school outreach on behalf of our clients. So we will drive, our commitment to you is if there are vacancies on there, we will drive young people to those vacancies. Dave, I think I'm going to chuck a question your way, if you don't mind. So how can we and society make care more attractive career for younger people? And if any of our learners would like to jump in on that one, please do.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking, Jessie, I don't know if you're about, but you gave a great example last week around thinking of things a little bit different. I think it was your cousin that had applied to work in care, and the provider was willing to offer something a little bit different. Are you able to share that with us?
Absolutely. So my cousin had applied for a job in a care home, but she lives in a rural area in Australia. So they offered her the job and she said, much as I would love to accept it, it's just not going to be accessible for me. So they actually chose then to work with her and said, if you can commit to working with us and, we can retain you as an employee and train you, we will subsidise your driving lessons for you. And so it just gave her that access and removed that barrier, allowing her to still fill that position.
Thanks, Jessie. And that's just one example. And we know providers in the UK also offering driving lesson support. And I think it is about us really listening, engaging with this cohort and really understanding what are they looking for. We can all assume and make assumptions on what we think young people want and would find attractive about working in care. I think the reality is we need to engage with this group and really sort of ask the question to them. So anything that we can do around flexibility, around showing the true face of care and what it means to work in care. We see great examples of providers. We've seen the video on TikTok where it's in a learning disability setting of a support worker who shares his day in the life of and all the things he gets to do that he didn't realise he would be doing as a support worker. And it can feel a little bit daunting, can't it, when there's sort of media like TikTok that perhaps we're not all used to using. But as Philippa mentioned, get the younger people getting involved with some of that and sharing some of that online for you. And I think that's really going to help.
Just Kate Horsfield, Kate, you asked if there any employability skills support attached to it because you think that maybe that people could be supported by how to apply. And I think I've got a bit of a two-part answer. So first of all, I'm sure any of your local colleges or schools or universities would welcome any input working with you to share, what is it that you're looking for? What are the skills? How best to follow your recruitment process. And more on career pages over the years, we've seen this is what we're about, these are our values, this is our mission, this is our recruitment process, this is what we expect from you. But there are also lots of other tools out there. So Cohesion sponsored a PhD at Aston University 6 years ago now, and we looked at what makes the best frontline workers in the UK, because there was no academic study specifically looking at that. And then we used the findings to make a values-based recruitment tool, which supports both candidates in the recruitment process and clients in the recruitment process to keep to a values-based process. And it also gives a third report for people that you support, and a fourth report which is designed to keep people there and to have development and retention conversations. So yes, there are tools out there, but again, I would say as much as you can on your career pages and in your job ads, tell people what you need, tell people what you want, tell people what the people that you support need and want, and engage locally with schools and colleges.
Amanda, can I just jump in with the employability skills?
Yeah.
So employability skills are now built into every single lesson. And it's especially in a vocational college like ours, it's really important that we're not just teaching the specification, we're encouraging learners to pick up key, we call them knowledge, skills and behaviours. It comes from most specifications, and Ofsted use it as well as a measure. So when we are learning about something, we would be talking about which skills are you learning alongside this topic. For example, if learners are communicating with me, maybe they're not coming in today, or with their teacher, and they have to send an email, they have to send it using formal English language. They're not allowed to use text speak, and that's embedding English. And the employability skill there is to use emails, because of course in their normal daily lives, this age group do not email each other. So they have to learn how to communicate formally like that. It might be that because all our learners have iPads, because we're an Apple distinguished school, it might be that we ask them to do a PowerPoint presentation, or to record each other doing a skills-based test. For example, our level 2 learners last week were dressing 2 of our mannequins, and we were doing a unit about person-centered care and about dignity and respect, and how to do that in a dignified and respectful way. So they would record each other, so they're not just doing the activity, they're also having to learn how to do how to present themselves clearly. And I think those skills are embedded in every single lesson, but we also have workshops, and these students you can see on the screen have a workshop on a Wednesday afternoon, which they've had since September. And that workshop is focused on their next steps. So it's focused on how to produce a personal statement, how to sell yourself, how to fill in an application form for UCAS. If you're interested in apprenticeships, how would you apply for that? What things have you achieved in your life so far that are useful going forward in your job? So I think we are much better at employability skills than certainly I was taught at school. And like I said earlier, guest speakers and speakers on Teams add to that, because they have to ask questions. We ask them, if you have got a guest speaker coming, you have to prepare questions in advance. You have to think, you have to research that company. You have to be clear what they're doing, why they're here, and I think those skills are embedded. And I really would like you to be assured we take that very seriously.
Can I also add
I'm
as
just
well?
gonna, oh, sorry, Dave.
No, I just wanted to add, I think one thing to mention on care and support jobs, there are some useful tools that candidates can use. So you can signpost your candidates to CV template, for example, or hints and tips on interviewing, and we regularly update blogs, so you're welcome to share material with your candidates. But I think as ourselves as employers and providers, sometimes it's just looking at our recruitment processes and really sort of, we sometimes make it really difficult for candidates of any age And we feel like we have to make people jump through hoops to apply to our organisations, because it's really important work that we're delivering. However, I think it's really important that you do really simplify your recruitment processes. Long gone are the days of long application forms and formal sort of assessment processes. We should be offering that values-based approach in everything that we do right throughout the recruitment process. So perhaps audit your recruitment process and sort of feel it for yourself in terms of what would that look like for somebody who hasn't been used to conducting interviews and going out there to do some of that. So yeah, just wanted to add that in as well.
And I'm gonna, and I hope this is okay, Jessie, I think this was your example. So Sheila's mentions that at home group, you know, quite rightly, you're looking for transferable skills. Some of what we're talking about today, you know, being very frank with you all, I believe there is some bias towards recruiting young people at an early age in the sector. And one of our learners, and I think it was you, Jessie, was it, who, right, are you comfortable sharing that story with everybody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go for it.
So I started doing work with a local children's charity, supporting children with various different additional needs. And one of the young people I worked with was actually entitled to a personal assistant, but it was her family's choice that she have someone that she already knew. So they actually put me forward for it. So I applied for the position and secured an interview with the agency. And it wasn't actually until I came to the point of the interview that they actually dropped interest in me because of my age. And I just think that that really shows how age bias is still a problem, because it was a position that I could have quite easily filled. And for the family especially, it was more about it being someone that this young person knew and was comfortable around, rather than the age of the person.
Thank you. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it does sound like you had really good transferable skills and would have been a good fit. And I suspect it was a little bit of maybe a fear factor there about age. So, you know, I think this is something that everybody here, we all need to myth bust this as much as possible and blast it open, because, you know, 165,000 vacancies, an aging population, a declining birth rate, less 18-year-olds than ever before. I could go on, but I'm not going to. We need to start doing stuff differently to shift that dial. So any other questions anyone want to share? Otherwise, what's we're coming to the end of the hour, actually. It's been that's flown by. See, Philippa, you just said learners are more used to application forms. Yeah, we can do CVs. I mean, we see a mix. I would say it's more application forms nowadays, and the shorter the better, and then a gathering of a work history.
I'd really challenge that.
At the point that you make an offer.
Exactly. I'd really challenge that. So for our clients, what we recommend is get rid of the CV mandatory.
Yeah.
You know, who's applying on a mobile phone? Who has a copy of their CV on their phone to upload? Who has that long application form anymore? Capture the information where you need it. So we will do an employment timeline at the point of offer, for example.
Yeah.
So if you can remove all barriers, you're going to get the best results.
Yeah. Okay, so Dave and I and Adam and Philippa and our learners, we could talk about recruitment all day, and actually that's kind of my job. That is what we do. But we are going to follow up. We'll share the recording with you. Happy to we'll share our contact details. So we will happily support you through the process to get involved, or if there are any other conversations you want to have that sparked your thinking process from today, we will happily have them. But just a very heartfelt, please consider how we can help to myth bust and encourage hiring managers as much as possible to be flexible, because there are thousands of young people out there who would, despite all of the challenges we know about, really welcome the opportunity to work in a social care setting. And they're struggling to find positions. So, you know, we're here to help you make that happen. And Nick, yes, we will definitely share a link to the jobs board. Perfect. Thank you all, and happy Tuesday. Have a great week. And thank you to everyone at Harlow and to all of our learners and to Philippa. We'll also share Philippa's details so that you can get in touch to engage with Harlow and give feedback on that curriculum.
Thank you, everybody. Just a great big thank you to all our presenters, our folks from Harlow College. Thank you very much for your time. I know you'll be very busy. And thanks to everyone who's come along to the session. Very inspiring, hopefully very practical. Hopefully you can take a lot from it, and onwards and upwards with our new generation.
Yes.
Thank you very much.